Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von hinten an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
If Kareem saw that like a little quicker, if they were a little more used to playing with each other, my narrative right now would be off the chart.
I mean,
Off the chart.
I liked seeing Bayer get the start, and he did have a couple good runs that the through ball just wasn't good enough for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, welcome to Dortmund Dispatch. I'm joined by Joey. We're hot to trot today with a delayed recording, but with good reason, as Borussia Dortmund have done something very dramatic and pulled off the penalty victory in Frankfurt in their house, celebrating in front of about 30,000 of their fans, but actually probably like 40,000 of their fans, but more importantly, in front of 8,000-ish traveling supporters. Truly an incredible scene. How did you feel watching this match?
I mean, it was a tense one. Hated being behind for most of the first half, and beginning of the second half was great with that early goal from Brandt. But we just could not find a breakthrough for a second. However, extra time is usually fun, and penalty shootouts are always exciting because you don't always get to see a shootout every season. And when you do get to see it, your team doesn't always win. So thankfully, we won the shootout. And we didn't just win the shootout, we won it on a save from Gregor Kobel. And there's something about that I just found to be so exciting. And the scenes afterward, the dog pile on top of Kobel, Nico Schlotterbeck running up to the fans and just screaming with his fists up. I mean, this is like the match against Cologne on Saturday. It's right at the end. It's dramatic, and I mean, as much as I would have loved to have won this game like 5-0 or something, there's no denying that this was an exciting conclusion to the match. So I'm happy with the win. I'm really happy that we're not out of the Pokal already, like last season. So let's go. Keep it going.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really enjoy about this performance is that for all the players, it'll help them kind of challenge that. I think is a bit of a lazy narrative that these guys fold or whatever it may be. When I think they maybe just have a little bit less quality than some of the other sides, and that bears itself out. But in this match, they get a tough match. They go down early in a tough draw, away to Frankfurt. They don't have the yellow wall, which is clearly given them a huge advantage over the years, and they're able to battle back. And to me, that says something about this team, and I think that going forward, like, you maybe can't expect the biggest things, but, like, you can expect some competency, and that's what we're growing to see from Niko Kovac. And there was a quote that was given by one of the announcers in this match talking about how Kareem Adeyemi was a little bit upset about getting subbed off in the last couple matches, and Kovac was like, look, we want our friends to play. If you want your friends to play, you can't play all 90 minutes. And the announcer essentially said that Kovac has also, like, become a little bit more calm on the sidelines, and I think that is to kind of, like, balance and keep the heads level, because I think we have some big egos, some big personalities on this team. And I think you really see that as this match goes on. Like, even Felix Nemecha, I'm not a fan of him as a player, not necessarily as a person either, but at the end of the match, at halftime of extra time, he's literally going through with everyone else the same and just forcefully saying Schlotterbeck, like, they're talking to their teammates, they're talking to their partners in defense, their partners in midfield, and they're saying, this is what we need to do to make sure we win. Like, we're right in this game, and then you go up and you make sure that you don't concede. That's number one. And then in penalties, we have a goalie that has historically been pretty good at preventing penalties. and their goalie has never saved a Bundesliga penalty. And look how the penalties go. Because Zetterer guessed right a couple times, but I think Gregor Kobel, he only needed to guess right, what, once?
Yep, one's the charm, and Doan. I mean, I do like Ritsu Doan as a player, but uh, he rocketed that ball way high. And thankfully, on I think it was Frankfurt's fourth shot, Goebel saved it and done and dusted.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything tactically you want to talk about in this match? Some substitutions?
Um, Tactically speaking, I think a couple interesting things in this one. First and foremost is that we saw Seru Girassi benched. Um, that could be in part due to fatigue. I mean, we're balancing a lot of games, a lot of midweek games right now. Could also have something to do with Girassi's goal drought. Um, I would love to see a little bit more from him, um, and was happy to see Maxi Bayer start. Unfortunately, that didn't play out quite to Kovac's plan either. Um, One thing I do want to point out, tactically speaking, is at the beginning of the second half, because going into halftime down a goal, I think we came out from the locker room, good halftime chat with Kovac, I'm sure. And we did what we needed to do. It was a really high intensity play for a good like 10, 15 minutes. We got a goal, got right back in this thing, and I would have loved to see that intensity maintained, but kind of what we touched on a few minutes ago, it's another result that we kind of had to grind out. And I mean, that's just the reality of it because Frankfurt was playing pretty strong. Angsar Knauf is a decent player. He always seems to rise to the occasion against Dortmund. Whether I always find that he plays well against us, and seeing Goetze get the assist on that, that one hurt. And one thing unrelated to the Frankfurt goal that I also wanted to point out is in the penalty shootout, all four of our penalty takers were very calm and took their penalties in a very collected manner. I mean, they were all good penalty shots. Sula's was probably the most questionable. Zetterer guessed the right direction, but there was still enough pace on it that that thing went into the net. And
All four
Chukwuemeka's,
substitutes, by the way. All
yeah,
four.
and Chukwuemeka's, his for just a split second, I thought it went wide, and then it kind of curled into the net. And I was really impressed by all four shots. They were exactly what we needed. Therefore, all it really would take is one save from Kobel and a little gift from Doan. Easy shootout.
Yeah, to me, I do want to talk about the Garasi stuff because it's starting to get there in this match. Comes off the bench. He has two shots. Because it's not just a goal drought where it's like the finishing sloppy. Like to start the season, Sarah Garasi's like if you look at his game log, you have the match against Monterrey, 6 shots in the Club World Cup. Then you have some matches against Heidenheim, 5 shots. The match against Union, 8 shots. The match against St. Pauli, 2 shots. Bratweiss Essen, 4 shots. 3 against Juventus. And then the goal drought starts in the league, and you have 1 shot, no goal against Wolfsburg. You have the athletic match up next, 2 shots, he gets a goal. But in the next match, it's 1-1-1-2 against Köln, and 2 today. And the quality of chances aren't the highest in these matches. And we're talking about going from like 8-4-2 to 1-1-2-2. Like that's I don't know, I don't code, but that's like there's a coding joke in there. Um like ones and twos, like the shot numbers are down, and the sides that we're talking about him getting good shot numbers against two of the worst defensive teams in the league, and that's is that a concern for you yet?
I I think it is a concern, not just because he's not scoring, but because he's not doing a whole lot off the ball either. Um, I don't, I don't think Gerassi's hold-up play has been terribly good in the last couple, in his last few appearances. I think his passing has been a little bit slow, and I think he himself has looked slow at times. I mean, I'm concerned overall that there's maybe too much of a reliance on Girassi right now. I know he's a very good target man, and I know how clinical he can be, but I have seen him not able to convert on numerous attempts now. And I guess my hope is that between Bayer and Fabio Silva, that can either relieve some of the pressure on him or maybe motivate him to retain that starting position more frequently. And I mean, it could be like a confidence thing, and maybe this is a situation where once Girassi gets a goal, the floodgates open again. But I am a bit concerned right now that he is our target man, um, because at the very least, he's usually good for drawing players away from other attacking players or like drawing the defenders. Um, but I just felt like I feel like there hasn't been a lot from him in the past few games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about with this because even if you don't look at the Club World Cup last season, he was on nearly 4,000 minutes. He's well over it with the Club World Cup. That's way too many minutes for a striker. That's way too many minutes for a defender, even because we've talked about like Nico Schlotterbeck had that, and he did that when he was like 23, and then the next season he's starting 3 games a week again, and how long did it take for him to have a serious injury? Like that 4,000 minute mark is the magical number of bad things happening. Like Min Jae Kim played about 4,000 minutes for Napoli, came over to Bayern and had a much sloppier season, looked very lethargic, and hasn't really looked like the same player. Like playing 4,000 minutes for just your club, we're not even talking about his international minutes. Like that's a serious, serious worry for me with absolutely any player. And I think the club must have been aware of it to some degree because there were a lot of people talking about why is Fabio Silva coming in? And I thought that just getting like a versatile attacker made a bit more sense because you can have Maxi take some of the minutes at nine, which we saw in this game. And like, well, you said he wasn't necessarily to the best effect. Maxi was involved in the build up to that first goal, creating some space, drifting out wide, overload there, and then all of a sudden, Brandt isn't marked tightly in the box because his run's coming from deep. Like there is something to that with Maxi Bayer there, but in terms of Garassi, the worry is just 4,000 minutes last year, and this year, aside from against the third and fourth worst defense by expected goals against, he's not really put up a good performance without like a holistic performance. Because some of the Champions League games, we're talking about 2 or 3 shots, and Maxi Bayer's a player who's not being talked about positively this season, and he's a guy who's I think around that 2 or 3 shot mark. So you expect a bit more out of Grassi. Um, do you think it's more of like an issue with the entire attack? Because to be fair, I did look at the underlying numbers for all three of our attackers this season. For shots, expected assisted goals, expected non-penalty goals, and expected goals, and all three of Grossi, Adeyemi, and Bayer are down.
I I don't know. I mean, it's really a bit speculative. Um, I feel like these low scoring games have kind of they've been coming. And a part of that has to do with some of our higher scoring games when we've had a low XG. And I'm like all three Champions League matches, we scored 4 games in, while our expected goals was I think like around 2-ish or maybe even lower for each of those. Um, Eli's giving me a thumbs down for lower, I think. So,
That was not
um,
my thumb, but
no.
yes.
But I mean, kind of like having 27 shots against Cologne and only finding the net on the final one. Some of those numbers are going to catch up with you, and I think they have caught up to Dortmund. I also think that maybe a few chinks in the Niko Kovac system have started to show themselves. Um, I've appreciated the fact that there's been a bit of rotation with these midweek games, and I do think that that could be one contributing factor to the what feels like a lower synergy between certain players. But my hope is that with the player rotation, that will kind of work itself out the longer the season wears on, especially if we can keep the majority of the team fit. And I'm thinking that that's probably what Kovac has in mind right now, um, because we do have a few guys who are up there in age. Uh, Pascal Gross
A
is
few.
33. Guirassy, I think, is 30 at this point. Emre Can's not even playing right now. Sabitzer,
Sabitzer.
Sula. So these are not guys who are going to reliably be able to compete at their top level every 3 to 4 days. And if we are intending on having a deep run in the Champions League, which I always hope for, then we're going to have to maintain it, some way to compete on multiple fronts, because we may not be competing for the Bundesliga title this season, but we have to be competitive enough, and we need to keep winning games so that we can hopefully get second place, but like absolutely secure top four. I don't want to get to the end of the season and be playing catch up and trying to secure fourth place in the final match day. We want to be in second or third place by a decent margin of points, so that when we get to the end of the season or get to those tough Champions League ties, we can look at the league table and say, okay, we are 8 points clear of fifth place or something like that. Um, uh, but again, I am really just speculating right now, and Kovac has, for the most part, been able to keep the squad fit since he's arrived. With a couple exceptions, but we're not really seeing the major injuries like we were under Shaheen last year.
Yeah, there still are some usage. Like, it takes a long time for a coach, in my opinion, to be responsible for injuries unless they're doing something like egregious. There's one player in particular I think needs some rotation, and that's Danny Svensson. I
Yep,
believe he played all 120 today, and
I
this is
think
a
so.
guy that has played every league minute so far this season, and that's not sustainable over the course of a full campaign, especially as a flying left back. But I think largely like today, you go into the cup match, and last year we went we went to Wolfsburg with Nuri Shaheen. We rotated absolutely no one. We had very few fit center backs at the time, and we lost in extra time. And in this match, we go up against a team that's better. That's a Champions League team in Eintracht Frankfurt this season. Um, we rotated half our team from the weekend, and I think you maybe have some preparation for that. Where, like, I don't think Gross is currently in the first 11. Um, you have Carney Chukwuemeka, who's not a first 11 player, playing against Köln. Like, these two guys get rotated out, obviously, in the midweek against Frankfurt for some first 11 guys, but out comes Ben Sabaini, although that may have been down to an injury. Um, but regardless, you're changing out a considerable portion of your team, and you're still able to get what you need to get out of a match against Frankfurt. And that to me is very, very impressive of Niko Kovac. And I think that like there is room to criticize him, and I think he can really improve on the margins. but a lot of the things I think he can improve on are like just him being a little bit more open-minded and having him listen to whatever coach is in charge of substitutions, rather than just going with his gut a little bit in those situations. Because even today, I think there were some, so like it's every single match. I just think the Fabio Silva substitutions about 10 minutes late, but I
I
think he's doing a good job.
Yeah. From what I've seen of Silva so far, I completely agree. I usually wish that he was subbed in about 10 minutes sooner. Was really glad that I got to see a bit more of him today. See him play all through the extra time. Was hoping he was going to have the breakthrough, and um, clearly he didn't. But penalty was nice.
Yeah, let's talk about the Köln game because there are some negatives that I want to focus on. You talked about it a little bit, but it's 27 shots for just 1.9 xG. That's about half of what an average chance is in the Bundesliga this season, per shot. So the average chance is around 0.11, 0.12, depending on the season. And the league, we were at about 0.59 in this match. That's just not good enough. Um, why do you think we struggled to really break down Cole?
Oh man, I mean, we had so many shots. I mean, we dominated the possession. Um, it Cologne kept what I thought was a very compact defense. They kept it very tight, and I think they had a very clear strategy in this match that they were going to absorb as much pressure as they possibly could, and they were going to try to hit us on the counterattack. And they did that in the first couple, or twice in the first half, where they did have a breakaway, and we got pretty lucky. But I mean, we couldn't find the breakthrough. I mean, we did find the breakthrough eventually, but I don't know. I mean, I was at my new fan club here in the Research Triangle, Brucian Triangle, and I was watching it with a few new friends at the bar, and we were trying to rack our brains over what Dortmund needed to do to win this match. I don't necessarily think the subs were the best choices. Of course, I would have liked to see Fabio Silva introduced sooner. Um, or maybe the timing of the substitutions. I think we could have done a bit better on our corner kicks. And I know Eli, you and I have discussed the corners from that match a little bit. I mean, I personally I don't think we have a corner taker right now who's really just the first choice corner taker. I mean, we see Schlotterbeck take them here and there. Brandt sometimes when he's on. Rierson has been taking a lot of them recently. Um, but I do think we're missing like a set piece specialist within the squad. And then when it comes to putting away these corners, we've got to do better with the aerial duels. And or we've got to get better at winning the ball in the box, or at least I'm not even sure watching this match because we retained so much possession and kept firing the ball in, and they were getting in our
Uh,
way every step of the way.
can I talk about some things on the corners?
Yes.
So I think last year, like as much as the one game Schlotterbeck took it the first time, like everyone has positive memories of that because the ball went in the back of the net and he took some great corners. I don't necessarily think that is the solution to the corner kick issue for Borussia Dortmund. I think that you need a bit more consistency. I really dislike Julian Ryerson on the outswinger. Like he can take them from the left side. I think yeah, left side would be in swinging, and I think that makes a lot more sense. Um, and you can have Daniel Svensson take them on the opposite side with the left foot so you maintain that in swinger. Because right now we're seeing these outswinging corners from Julian Ryerson, and some coach has clearly thought up a plan for a back post second header and something like that. And you saw the ball continuously go towards the back post. And even when it's getting into a good area in the back post, we're just not getting the right type of chance we'd want on it because the back post corner is going to maybe get you more chances, but it's going to get you the lower quality ones. And that's when you get some of those issues you're talking about where the finishing on the corners isn't great. And maybe you're not winning like the duels because you're not getting your primary guys in that area because your primary guys are running at the front post and getting their best defenders out of the way. And I think Dortmund has so much size right now, especially if you're putting Nico Schlotterbeck in the box. Like you're talking about 6 footers. You have Fabio Silva, Maxi Bayer, as some of your like 6, 7 guys, sixth or seventh choice header guys, and you still have Felix Necha, who's very good in the air. You have all three of your center backs, whoever they're gonna be, um, in the box, whether it's Schlotterbeck and Tan. Ben Sebaini has historically been very, very good on both sides of set pieces in the Bundesliga. Um, Another 6 footer when he's not taking the corners is Daniel Svensson. Like he's a guy that can do that. You can have Julian Brandt as a guy that you want to get on the ball if it falls down in the back post or if it gets a headed clearance out there. Like I think that's good. You have Karim Adeyemi kind of as your guy roaming around the box and just like kicking the ball over their goal if they head it away to prevent the counterattack. Like I think they have these ingredients. They have the athleticism, certainly in the Bundesliga, not necessarily Champions League, because that's a very, very much a different story. But they have the athletes to be good on corners. They just need to make sure the taker is consistent, because if you're changing out your taker, you're changing out all these things, that clearly means you're not doing enough on the training ground to have the confidence in the guy doing its ability, and that to me is the biggest issue. It needs to be the same guy from the same side, and you need to have the right repetitions in where instead of going to the back post, maybe a lot of the times it's not going to beat the first man, but when it does, you're going to create big chances instead of little insignificant ones that don't really ever account to anything, like we saw in this match.
It was getting a little bit too predictable, I think, on the corners, and I would have liked it, at least for them to switch it up a little bit. Maybe even try like a short corner kind of strategy. I just think that there's a lot of creativity that can be implemented in any kind of set piece, and um, that could be something. I mean, that Dortmund could see a bit of improvement on, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I just quickly want to go over this Niko Kovac quote from the weekend, although you could very much recycle it from this most recent match. And he said, I told the lads in the dressing room, you can't do that to me too often. My heart can't take it. My beard is turning gray, but ultimately, those are beautiful moments too. What happened here in the stadium after the goal was sensational. And yeah, after Maxi Bayer scored, the relief in my watch party was tremendous. It was fantastic. It was good to be a part of. Definitely gave me a bit of an adrenaline run to see that. And I know you guys in North Carolina were enjoying that as well.
We sure were. I jumped out of my seat cheering, and I think we may have caused a small tremor in the boot room with how loud our celebrations were. Um, of course, I had at that point had kind of resigned myself to the fact that Dortmund was going to draw 0-0. Um, but all the frustration was worth it when I saw that ball hit the back of the net. And yeah, I too got a bit of an adrenaline rush from that. But that's why we're fans.
And Joey, can you give me your star of the week from these last 2 matches?
So, we tried to record last night, but ran into some technical difficulties, and my star was going to be Maxi Bayer for the emotions that he made me feel on Saturday. But after watching Dortmund's triumph over Frankfurt today, I have to give my star of the week to Gregor Kobel for those heroics. Not just that penalty save at the end, but for the I think 5 or 6 saves that he made throughout the 120 minutes of the match prior to the shootout. So Gregor Kobel, he's the GOAT right now.
Yeah, Big Greg would have been my first choice, but I think I'm going to give it to Maxi Bayer. I think he was pretty bright in this match in the midweek. And on top of that, did get the goal on the weekend. 2 shots in that game, and the second one, he's able to find the back of the net. I think Maxi Bayer, like, for whatever reason in that match, got told to put his heels on the touchline, and every time I see that, it makes me mad. But then in the midweek in the cup, he's able to play more of his natural position, and like there's some chemistry things that weren't there coming back without really training the two at the front from the three up top. And I think like Maxi Bayer can only look better playing through the middle. Um, and the numbers aren't really as bad as everyone makes it out. Like obviously we expect a lot more of Maxi Bayer, but he's still so young. Um, and in the moment where it matters this week, he came up with the goods. And at the end of the day, the stats are cool, the results are better, and Maxi got the result for us in that match.
He sure
But
did.
let's move on to some negatives. Dud of the week. Joey, who's your dud of the week?
Well, I won't spend too much time on it because we've already talked about him a bit. But my dud is Serhou Guirassy. The last few matches we just need better from him. I think we know he's capable of more. But I mean, on the ball and off the ball, he's got to do better.
Did it go in the shootout?
He did not.
He
I
had to
was
have been going fifth then.
I was wondering if he was going fifth.
Because there's
I assume that he would be for the intimidation, but that also makes me nervous because we've seen him miss a couple penalties, so
oh
we'll never know now.
he has also taken about 50 for us. So.
True.
Um, my dud of the week, I'm gonna go in a different direction. This guy did convert a penalty, and that is his saving grace, because otherwise it could be very bad. So some words I do not want to say publicly could have come out of my mouth. Thankfully they won't, because he does convert the penalty, and that's good. And off the bench, he's done some fun things, mainly dribbling. But Carney Chukwuemeka gets a chance to start, and it's not good. It's really not. Um, I don't know what to say at this point. Like there's people that are saying like this guy's supposed to make Brant sweat or something, like him feel the competition. I'm not seeing it. Because it's one shot creating action, one shot, two take-ons attempted, none completed. This is not the guy we're seeing off the bench, because the guy off the bench is completing like 80% of his take-ons. He's attempting 10 per 90, and that's incredible, and it's very fun. But for the way people talk about this player, and for a guy who's 22, he's not incredibly young. You'd like to be seeing a bit more when he starts the match. And again, we can talk about him potentially being a little bit out of position, but like, what is his position? I would love to know, because we've seen him get put at 10, but he's not creative. We've seen him get put at 8, but he's not good enough as a passer, not necessarily good enough defensively, and now we're seeing him on left wing. And if Julian Duranville comes back and starts to finally make good on some of his promise, or Cole Campbell's able to step into the first team and look the way he has for the one little super sub appearance he's made this season, I don't know what Carney Chukwuemeka's role is. Like maybe if you need 30 minutes, you go to Chukwuemeka, but if you need 15, you go to Cole Campbell. the end product's not really been there. The dribbling has, and that's valuable. That's worth something. Borussia Dortmund are always looking for a bit more ball progression, it feels like, in the last 5 years through the middle of the park. But I need Carney Chukwuemeka to show me something, and not show me something for 20 something minutes off the bench, but to show me something from the start of a game. And he got his chance, and he hasn't. And we've sat here and we've done it before with these players who are dominating off the bench, like Gio Reyna, like Jamie Gittins, and sometimes they get the starts, and Jamie Gittins eventually started to look like a starter at times, but did fall off over the back half of last campaign. But other times, these guys aren't starting because they don't have it. And I'm really starting to get that concern with Cardi Chukwuemeka. I see the talent. Like off the bench as a dribbler, there's some moments that are exquisite, but it needs to be shown more, and especially more from the start.
That's why that kind of player, it can be really frustrating, because you know what they're capable of because of those bench appearances, but where is it at the start? I'm totally with you on Juke.
Yeah, I'm not calling him a flop or anything like that yet. There's too many years left on his contract, and this is a guy with his physical profile. You could just get to the fact, or get to the point where he turns 23, 24. He figures out the passing. He plays in an 8 role, and he's box crashing, and it looks fantastic. Like, we could get to that point still. I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying right now, we need to be a little bit more reasonable about where he is, and he either needs to start showing us more, which he is capable of, or he needs to, get a little bit more criticism. But we'll see how that progresses over the next 6 months. We got some news to go over before we head out. So, Pletty has come out and said, let's start with Kovac and we talked about Grassi. We're skipping that quote. The next one is from Pletty on Twitter. Borussia Dortmund are exploring the Brazilian market and has come across Caoa Prates from Cruzeiro. The club has watched the left back live on several occasions. The price for the player is not yet entirely clear, but Kale is still trying to sign him. What are your thoughts on this? Does this rule out the buyback for Tom Rotha? What do you think's going on here?
I mean, I wouldn't say it rules out the buyback for Tom Rotha. I think Dortmund is probably trying to keep their options open right now. I know that you and I would both love to see Tom Rotha return, but he's also got to want it too. And I suppose that is to be determined. But I mean, after like the last couple of transfer windows, I'm just happy to see Dortmund exploring the non-English market. I think we spent a bit too much of our resources and time in trying to get players from English Premier League clubs this last summer, when I think we could have potentially found a few gems in other leagues. See Daniel Svensson.
Well, I don't want to get too critical because, like, we are seeing some guys move on free transfers that we were linked to, like an Aiden Heaven, who's shown some nice moments at Manchester United, but their new ownership group is just giving out literal multi-million-dollar contracts to children, and that's like a risk that Dortmund can't just eat. But let's talk about the next one, because Sebastian Kehl is dealing with a commitment for Juan Cruz Mesa. The 17-year-old from River Plate will celebrate his 18th birthday in March and would then be ready for a transfer to Europe next summer. So it sounds like he's kind of running down his contract a bit and is looking to move to Europe from one of the most prestigious South American academies. Borussia Dortmund this summer will also be receiving or arriving at Borussia Dortmund 2 years after his initial transfer date will be an Ecuadorian youth international as well this summer in that same attacking mid position. But I don't think, my God, what's his name? I always forget. Anyway, this child we signed 2 years ago will be coming over from Ecuador to join the first team upon his 18th birthday. This other player now, South American attacking midfielder, is getting linked with the club. Is this again just another case of we're looking for value? If it's value, we're happy.
That could be. I mean, these aren't guys that I have really seen play, so it's hard for me to make a judgment of, are these wunderkinds or are these guys going to be on the under 23 team? Um, but either way, I mean, I think we need to diversify where we're looking, and I think the South American market is prime.
Yeah, I think it was like a week or two ago where we were talking about a lot of the U19 players from Germany that Dortmund was getting linked with. And I think that's positive, but I also think it's positive to go out and find some of these guys from abroad and go into the markets where the talent is, wherever it may be, and make sure you get them to sign on the dotted line and produce some value for your club. I think that any of these guys coming over at 18, like I do expect them to spend uh, most of their game time at first with the second team rather than the first team. But, it's everything's a step. And at 18, you don't necessarily need to be ready. These are guys that can be project signings, and we haven't seen the club successfully utilize a loan spell into having them come back to the first team. But there are other clubs like Hoffenheim who have seen that do some tremendous success in recent years. Most currently with Fisnik Eslani, who has looked like spectacular, unbelievable, unplayable this year. Like, this guy was on loan at Elversberg last year and is now in the Hoffenheim first team. Like, I think Dortmund could be doing similar things with some of these players. You'd hope on a slightly, maybe not higher level, but they could be doing it with a bit more resources to invest into some of these U20 players, bringing them in, giving them that season to adjust to life in Germany, and just mature as soccer players in the Zwei Bundesliga on loan, and then bring them back straight into the first team in their second year and see what they can do then. And I think that's a very solid plan to kind of start getting a little bit more like more value per dollar than going and spending some money on some Premier League players, because when you do that, you are going to be paying more in wages, more in fees, because these guys are of a certain profile, and that's not to be critical of a Carney Chukwuemeka or a Fabio Silva, but it's just to say that you need to be exploring all opportunities. But I think that's it for me. Is there anything you want to add before we head out?
Um, Not too much, unless you wanted to talk about the Augsburg game on Friday at all. But
Oh, we do gotta talk about the Augsburg game.
but
Augsburg are currently sitting dead bottom of the Bundesliga. They
and
have
San,
the
so
or no, sorry,
they
they're
crashed out of the cup today as well to Bochum.
oh, Bochum. Did
Bochum
Kel
knocked
score?
him out.
How did Kel do? How did my
I
boy do?
I do not know, but he was on the winning end
Well,
of
I can tell. Yeah, we can tell you that Kel Watson doing better than anyone in Augsburg today, baby.
Yep, Sandro Wagner's Augsburg seems to be crashing and burning right now. So I'm optimistic that this Friday match, despite being away from home, will be one where we can get a bit of confidence. I think this is where Girassi ends his goal drought, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, Kel Watson leading Bochum past Augsburg with 3 key passes, and Garrett Holtman scored the winner. Unfortunately, Bochum did win, which is a little sad in this instance. But Augsburg sit bottom of the Bundesliga for expected goals against. So hopefully Dortmund can have a little bit more of an exciting performance than recent weeks in the Bundesliga. They're also bottom of the Bundesliga for expected goal difference, per 90. So they are very much in the relegation battle. There are teams that are below them, like Gladbach, like Mainz, and Heidenheim, who are all better by underlying numbers. But Augsburg have picked up some points. They've looked a little bit better in recent weeks with Fabian Rieder coming in, but overall, still pretty dreadful. I'm gonna have to go like straight up. I don't care, home or away. This is not Augsburg of the last couple of seasons. This is an inexcusable match to lose, and it's an inexcusable match not to dominate. I'm gonna go 4-1.
Well, we're predicting the same margin because I'm going with 3-0.
I was thinking about that one for a long time, but I changed it at the last moment. Anyway, we do have to give you. Oh my god. I am battling through illness, but I'm still here to give you your top 5 Dortmund Dispatch fantasy players as it stands. Supercalifragilistic staying in the top spot and has put together about an 1,100 point lead over Bissek and Bauer in second, and then Pints of Bayer in third,
Shout out Pints of Bayer.
Red Munich in fourth, and Christ Theme in fifth. And I have started to move up, I will say. I'm still, as always, number 1 of Dortmund Dispatch hosts, I believe. And I finished 8th this week. And I just need to start doing that consistently. And I can work my way back towards the top 5 or make it into the top 6 like I think I had to do last year, just to show my ball knowledge. But we'll get there. I am working my way back. Currently 29th in the league, but we're getting there. But that'll do it for us. Is there anything you want to plug, Joey?
Yeah, if you all could, well, thanks for listening first, and if you could all go on Instagram and follow Borussia Triangle, that helps a lot in terms of growing this new little fan club here and spreading the word, and also please follow Dortmund Dispatch on all socials and wherever you listen to us.
Okay, well, that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for joining, and have a good one.
Jadon Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inso an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a